We're recording, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to many things. This call is gonna be many things for me, for you. There is a lot that could be covered, but the biggest things I want to talk about today are just community and like where we're landing in community, what it's looking like to be in community, my vision for community and for the Amina Institute and what we're moving towards, and like some shifts, some major shifts that have changed here at the Institute and that are going to continue to change into the new year. So before we get started, I'm Amina. If you, some of you I have not met, but most of you I know in some way, shape, or form. I have been doing this work for a long time in a way. Like I started in the 90s, and while I've taken a break here or there, most of my break was in I took a couple of years break in the late 90s and early 2000s. For about 3 years, I wasn't in the work, but for the most part, consistently now, for the better part of 3 decades in the field of sexuality, working as a sex worker across a variety of workings. So starting off as a surrogate partner, moving into an erotic bodywork practitioner, moving into somatic sexuality, sexology, if you will, and kind of melding all these worlds together. And then moving through some spiritual coaching and some life coaching trainings and somatic experiencing in Jersey, and moving through some understandings of the body through different modalities, different ways. I've been in the body though for as long as I really can remember. I've been an athlete. I have been a coach. I've been a fitness professional. So I've always somehow connected to the body. Started, weightlifting pretty intensely, training pretty intensely when I was about 15. And I have not left my love for the body since. So a little bit of a snapshot about who I am and what leads me into the work. How I stayed is a different story, but what has led me to the work is that. And I no longer live in the US. I left the US almost 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago. And I am very grateful for that, to be able to say I've been gone for a while, feels really good for me. Um, I originally was going to leave the US under the first election going wrong. So that would have been when I moved to Atlanta in 2016 and 2016 versus 2017. And thought I was just going to be there for a moment. And next thing you know, I'm in love and got a thriving practice and business going on. And so I didn't have to, I chose to stay for a little bit. The pandemic, though, had me move pretty quickly. And so I was there for 3 years. I say that in the beginning because a lot of people think I'm from Atlanta. I am not from Atlanta. I was born in Chicago, raised in and around Chicago, and spent the majority of my adult life in Hawaii. So absolutely not from Atlanta, although a lot of people know me from Atlanta. My roots are Southern, though. My grandmother is from Scuba, Mississippi, and as is her grandmother. And my dad's side of the family, my patrilineal lineage is from South Carolina, throughout the Carolinas, actually, but mostly in Columbia and through Low Country. And so my roots are Southern, which means my background is also very Southern. That feels important to name because in a lot of these spaces we don't see the South. And as they said, the South has something to say, as as Outkast, as Big Boy said at that Grammys when they finally won that award. So I think it's important to name. So I often show up in spaces that are thematically inclined, and they're Pacific Northwest, or they're California, or they're Hawaii, or maybe they're Arizona even, if we're gonna get, that's about as south as we're gonna get. And it felt really important to me when I got to Atlanta to be able to um, dig my heels in a bit and be within the culture of my people, my upbringing, my roots, my heritage, and to bring this work front and center into a very urban metropolis, a very Black metropolis. And so that is something that I have a lot of pride about and still shapes my work today. And it shapes my move because even with all of that, upon living in Atlanta, and when the pandemic came, we were actually had a flight booked for March 12th of 2020 for our honeymoon. And that was just a very convenient time to be on a plane. And we never returned. We went to Hawaii for my honeymoon to go and stay at a friend's house while they traveled, and ended up no one traveled. We just hunkered down, and I never returned to Atlanta after that. And I've continued to go into spaces here, abroad, and in the US where this work is doing something, but the confines of the body, the reality of the body like has such magnitude that I'm not really sure how much we're moving. And we were able to move trauma out of our bodies while in the quicksand of trauma. It's an interesting thing that we actually try to set ourselves up for, which is like, I am going to reset my nervous system, or I'm going to befriend my nervous system. I'm going to train myself to be present in my body while the body is continuously under attack. And while we're witnessing other bodies under attack, often more so than our own. And so, like, what safety does the body seek in that environment? I believe the answer is very little. And so a part of my work right now, part of my shift in my work is imagining what the village looks like outside of the US, intentionally. Imagining what the village looks like, not as gentrifier or as expat, but as immigrant, building community and being in community in the places that we move into. And what's possible there. And so Tina Strawn, who's up there in the corner, has a beautiful book out called Are We Free Yet? The Queer Person's Guide to Divorcing America, something like that. Or did I say that kind of right? Queer Person's Guide to Divorcing America. And which I was, really grateful for, because I was able to be with her when she was actually finishing the writing of that book, because she came to stay with me in Costa Rica. And I returned to that book a lot for quotes and for like framing, understanding what happens when we get somewhere, and our shoulders actually just drop on their own without someone telling us to, like, okay, to go ahead and release your shoulders, go ahead. Like, your body actually just starts to settle into like just a different level of hypervigilance. What does that look like? And what makes that possible? And I speak Spanish relatively fluently. So, like, I almost enough to be able to translate professionally. I realize that. Like, I'm at the point now where I'm like really proud of this like growing thing that I got going on. I was at, mediocre fluency 5 years ago, but now I'm back. I got it back. And I say that because, like, that's one of those things that makes it really easy for me to be abroad. Is like, I'm here in a country where the language is something that I know and is familiar with for me. So I automatically have a little bit more ease of navigating, of feeling into my safety than someone who doesn't, right? I really got a firsthand feel of this when I went to Thailand, because I was like, I'm going to study Thai. Has anybody ever tried that before? 0 out of 10 stars. Do not recommend. It is super hard. It is tonal. We speak right here. They speak up here, down here, out over here. They speak like it's, and you could be saying the same thing, and that means nothing. It means something totally different because you didn't do instead of. And I was like lost before I got to Thailand. This is me. I'm like, me and Pimsleur are gonna have a blast. I get to Thailand, I'm studied enough where I can say like, hi, bye, bathroom, help after a month of learning the language. And there was a constant reminder of like being othered. Like, hello, I'm 5'8" almost. We'll give it roughly 5'8". Um, Relatively broad, right? Like broad shoulders, a woman of stature, if you will. And I'm in this country where folks are not this tall, particularly women, not this wide, and definitely not this black. The only people with a head this bald are going to be the monks. And so here I am in this space, and I'm othered by my mere presence. And then I also don't have the language. And then I'm looking for community. And the default is to look for community that looks like me. Like, okay, well, there's a Black space over here. Let me go to that. Or there's an American space over here. Let me go to that. But then what I find is like when I was in Thailand particularly, and I found this in other countries, is that I would find people who were aligned in maybe in our native tongue, maybe in some of the cultural upbringings that we have, but not necessarily in embodiment in the way that we want to learn, um, the way we want to experience ourselves, the way that we're working towards our healing, our goals, the way that we're working towards liberating our body. So what we bring over to a lot of these places, what I'm noticing, and I've seen this in multiple countries, not just Thailand, not just Costa Rica, Panama, but also throughout Africa, is that we bring over some of the worst parts of colonization, some of the ways that our power is disrupted and almost bastardized and taken from us and allowed into something else. And we bring over those parts, right? We bring over the shame of the body. We bring over toxic relationship styles. We bring over poor communication strategies. We bring over attachment styles that do not serve a collective, right? We bring that with us. And sometimes we bring it with us and we're like, I know it's here and I'm working on it. I'm working on it in therapy. I'm working on my day-to-day. But then sometimes you're in these spaces where there's the larger like collective expat experience and no one's working on it. And even though you feel you speak the language, you will feel incredibly unsafe in that if you're doing the work. You're like, oh, nobody's, this doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel safe for me to communicate my own needs here. I've determined what I need to feel safe to ask for what I want, and that doesn't exist here. I've determined what I need to feel safe to name, the things that I need, and that doesn't feel like that's available here. So you'll start to shrink, make yourself small, disappear, or you'll get really protective. Either way, not good for the collective. And so I'm imagining like, what does it look like for us to be actually working towards liberating ourselves possibly from the US and also in intentional community. And I know that word out west especially usually means cult or commune, right? And I don't know, I'm not saying, listen, I'm small kind pro cult. I know, no, not like, cult leader cult, but like, can we all be the cult leader cult? I'm really navigating this, like, what does it look like though to be in like truly an intentional community, have a commune or be working towards one as a collective, as a cooperative. Maybe that's in the future. Um, I've imagined structures where like, all right, the women are here and there's like some man houses out in the perimeters. If you want to go have some heterosexual stuff, you go out there. But otherwise we out here, we in the middle having like a matriarchal society and the men are just protecting the borders. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like. I have no idea. We're gonna dream that up together. But what I do know is I want to support folks that want to land somewhere where they can be around people who are aligned and or working towards similar outcomes in our bodies, in our embodiment, in our soma, like really deep in our sense of belonging to self first. And I want to make that easier. I want to make that easier for all who dare to do it. And so I started the Let's Get Free section of our membership, which is just really dedicated to that. It's open to all, as it doesn't matter, where you're coming from, what your, family lineage is, how you got here to the Americas, or what really your ancestors did while they were newly here or not. It does matter, like, are you intentionally working towards liberation and against racism? And do you understand what that means? Are you willing to learn and be in that experience with others? Are you willing to liberate your body to move towards pleasure and to work as a community to create spaciousness for us all to move towards pleasure? And some folks will do that online. Some folks will do that virtually. Some folks will decide they want to do that here in Panama. That's what I'm shooting for. That's what I'll be, shaping in that section of the membership. And some folks maybe I don't want to do it, but I want to do it somewhere else. I want to do it somewhere where French is spoken or whatever. And maybe this space serves as a blueprint for how to make that possible. And that's what I'm dreaming of. That's what is happening here. And so I wanted to open up with just that before I even got into like the nitty gritty of like the Institute and all the other things that we're doing, because that's a shift for us, right? It's still focused on pleasure. But like, I'm gonna tell you, as a Kingster, I think about like what my Kingster play parties look like. And when I was younger, I had access to these beautiful kink spaces with intimate circles of friends who knew and trusted each other. And that feels very different now than what's available. And I think that it has a lot to do with the fragmentation of friendship. And maybe we don't quite actually know what it's like to be in friendship anymore, to be in relationship with each other anymore, without ownership, without compartmentalizing, like how do we actually blend our ships? Like, what does that look like? And so, like, yeah, I can't throw a kink party here until y'all get here. It's like, what am I gonna do? I need people that are aligned, that are ready to come to into their bodies. Whether some folks are snow bunnies and they'll be coming here in the summertime or in the wintertime when it's our summer and the US is winter. Like, there's all kind of ways and shapes that it can take, but just want to name it. That's what's alive and that's what's happening. And I want to pause, check in to see how that's landing with you all. And if you have any questions about that before we move forward. So that's where I'm going to pause there and see where the questions are, if there are any, answer those, and then we'll move on to what's next.
I don't really have any questions, but I think the first time that I realized that this was sort of going to be the topic was, I think, in one of the last emails that you sent out. And it was really interesting to me. I don't know if you remember, we met at a friend's birthday party last year, and I moved to
Like
this
this week.
area.
Yeah.
Yes, about this week, exactly a year ago. And I moved to this area very much with the idea that I needed to leave where I was, that I recognized that what I was familiar with was not actually what I was comfortable with, and that I wanted to be in community with people who shared values and who wanted to embody a lot of the ideas that I'd been reading about and thinking about, but didn't necessarily know how to bring it to practice, and who wanted to envision something different together. And I found a lot of that here. And I still also feel that sense of not being safe in this country. I have double nationality. I could get all of my paperwork aligned to move to Spain, but in Spain, I grew up there and I had very much a sense of being othered, uh, particularly around race at the time when I lived there. I think it's a little bit different now, but when I grew up there in the 80s and um, 70s and 80s. My mom, my brother, and I were the only Black people I knew. So um, a Spanish speaking place that has folks from the African diaspora is very appealing. And so I'm very curious to learn more about this, and in particular, just the kind of community that you're describing. So just saying this is exciting. That's all.
Yeah, that othering really impacts uh, so much of us, and I don't think I realized how much of an impact othering was having on me until I was not othered. And so some of the times where I've had that as an opportunity has been in Atlanta. It was a moment where I was like on day maybe 10 of living in Atlanta, where I was head nodding because that's what I do when I walk past another Black person. They're like, no, because I live in places where there weren't enough of us, where we were not seeing each other that often. And I realized one day, at one point, I told myself, I said, you're gonna give yourself a crook in the neck. Everybody's Black, calm down. And so it was like that moment where I realized, like, oh, I don't have to actually look at you and say, you okay? I'm okay, we good. That was something that like landed on me in Atlanta. Chicago, in the city in Chicago, I got to experience that in the neighborhoods that I lived in, but there were neighborhoods that I could go to that was not the case. And there were neighborhoods that we couldn't go to. And within the city, right? Within the actual like 6060. So like that was also something that I was aware of, like, I'm not othered here, but I could step across this line. I could step across 35th Street and I will be othered. I can go into Bridgeport, I will be othered. This is where I'm safe though, and I'm not othered. And so you get to have that feeling and that knowing. And then moving here, and I lived in Costa Rica for 3 years before I moved here. And uh, I couldn't have been more othered in Costa Rica. I think about this all the time, like as now that I'm here, and that like nowhere that I went ever, even on the Caribbean side, was I not someone different than them. And that was really okay because it was something that I was built for. America built me for that, right? But when I got here, when I moved in and I started walking and going and interacting, and without missing a beat, no one assumed I was an American. There was no assumption being made about my origin story. There was no assumption being made about the language that I spoke. In fact, sometimes even when I would say, "Oh no, I'm American," they're like, you got family here, don't you?" Like that. Like, I mean, one of my cousins married somebody Panamanian. They got some family on the other side, but I don't know when I find them. I don't know where they're at. But that feeling of like, no, you're with us, you're here. And like how you walk down the street is different. And I noticed that here. And so I'm trying to recruit people into that because feeling that is something that I did not feel anywhere else. Like even in Atlanta, you feel that if you're and there's that feeling is fleeting in Atlanta, right? Because gentrification is just reimagining Atlanta in a way we never would have saw in the 99s and the 2000s. But moving into this space now, um, of like where you leave the perimeter and everything. Atlanta has this like little island in a Red Sea. And so you leave the perimeter and you're just in Georgia. And so that there's no that belonging doesn't exist outside of that either. Um, but here it's like no matter where I go, there is no assumption that I'm from somewhere else. I get to, prove that with my accent very, very pretty quickly. But there's no assumption. And that is very different when it comes to safety, perceived and real. And I've just been in the enjoyment of that. And I think it's an experience that we should all have. And having Spanish fluency changes that even more, right? And so we're building. Last night we went to a feminist gathering with a Afro feminist gathering with a bunch of of us here, and it was in Spanish and English, but we got to do so much of it in Spanish because everyone that is moving here is learning it in a way that's allowing us to actually sit in circle and be in community with people who don't speak English, which feels right. And that was something that we didn't have, that I didn't have in Costa Rica, because tourism in Costa Rica is the major, um, is the main funder of Costa Rica. And so there is a push for people to be able to speak English so that they can earn a living. Whereas here, the canal is the funding. And so they don't care about your English. They speak Italian more than they speak English because the contractors for the canal are all Italian, and that makes that it just gives that it gives me the warm and fuzzies. I'm gonna turn my light on because the sun has set and it's getting dark. So. Okay. So yeah. Um, yeah, Tony, I hear you. This sounds amazing. Can't wait to hear more. Yes. And I'm thinking about, of course, I'm actively recruiting. Tony and Tina are both in Costa Rica, and I'm actively recruiting them out of Costa Rica for a couple of reasons. One, I'm selfish and I want my friends closer, and I'm trying to build this community. But the other is that, like, what I realized when I was living in Costa Rica was I've been an activist my whole life, and um, the spaces of activism in Costa Rica were more spread out, and they were not, I wasn't able to access them. So I didn't feel as connected to the people. And it's expensive, right? So I'm also like thinking about like what is realistic. One of the things that has come up for me a lot is, and the question that I pose to other people is like, what would your life look like if your monthly expenses were only $1,500 a month? Now, for people in Costa Rica, like, here we go, okay, we good. But no, I mean that. Like, I've been sharing pictures of like, here's how much food I prepared for $8 for the week, proteins and veggies. Here's and starches, right? Like, here's 4 days worth of food for two full adults for $8. What the cost of rent and the cost of utilities. And I'm not like, there is this thing that you can do where you move to another country and you get the most deluxe, the deluxe apartment in the sky. And I will say where I'm at, it is one of those. I'm not gonna lie. I did choose one of those, but I didn't want to pay for an office. And so I chose it so that I could have my classes here and everybody could come be comfortable. And there are other styles of living here that are equally comfortable, beautiful, modern, updated, and not in the central banking district, which is where I'm at. And if you chose to have most of my friends, a great majority of my friends, have monthly expenses at this point that are far exceeding 4, 5, 6, and $1,000 a month. And so they have to work for that, right? What that looks like is like, I'm now working full time. Maybe I have a side gig. Maybe I commute further than ever before. I have less time with my family, no time for hobbies, very little time for self-care. I'm trying to squeeze in my therapist appointments in between client meetings. I haven't been to the beach in 100 years. I have friends when I was living in Hawaii who lived on the island that I lived on. And when they would come visit me, because I live closer to the beach, they'd be like, man, I haven't been to the beach all year. I'm like, it's September. But that's what work is, what capitalism will do. It will keep us in this machine to feed it. And so a part of this vision that I have also is like, what does it look like if we actually dial back the capitalism just a little bit? Like, if we don't have to spend 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 a month to eat, to live, to drive your car, to have insurance, to do this, what if all of those expenses got cut in half and then cut in half again? How much time would you have to live? Right? What would that feel like for you? How different would that be? And those are the questions that I'm curious about for all of us. Like, what does that look like if your total living expenses for the month while living alone, we haven't built the commune yet. This is just living alone. You have an apartment with a loft, a little bit of a view right by the park. You got friends, and it's $1,200, $1,400 a month, and that covers your rent, your light, your cell phone bill, your groceries, and your medical insurance. And what does that mean for how much productivity you have to do, right? Because this is what we're doing. We're doing all this productivity. And what I'm finding more and more is that we don't have anything to show for it. My brother is the first man in my family to retire, the first man in my family to retire that I've seen retire. Everybody else kind of retired and they went back to work and they worked till they died, essentially. Even they just worked a little bit, they still kept going. He is like, no, fully retired. And so a part of me is looking at that, like what was possible for him was that he was able to save enough money. He bought his house long enough ago, and he was able to save enough money to be able to do that. He bought his house for $38,000 in Atlanta, on Marietta. And so, yeah, so there's some equity in there, and then there's like his military retirement, and he then worked for the government, so he has to stay, and then he saved enough. People are not getting that, right? There's no more companies that are leaving you. There's very few companies that are still saying we're going to give you a retirement, and then you got to be with them for 20 years. I'm almost 50. I'm not going to work with somebody until I'm 70. So what does it look like for me to be able to save enough money to say I'm ready to retire? In the US, that doesn't actually look possible anymore. In the US, there's a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety around what will happen to you as you get older. And people pose it often as like, well, Mina, you don't have any kids, who's going to take care of you when you get older? And that's because we can't imagine a society where community is supporting each other, because we all going to have to work until we're 70, 80 or dead. If we don't come up with something else, this can't be the way. And so that's what I'm thinking about too, is like, this is not sustainable. It's not healthy. There's no orgasms, not enough. You know what I'm saying? There's no space for us to breathe deep enough to have the type of orgasms I'm teaching about. So, yeah, what I'm teaching about. That's a good segue to that. So there's been a shift though, right? So with all this said, so you'll see this if you log in, and you can access all of this for free. The Pleasure Project is a free membership to the Institute. Sure, I want you to join at the other paid levels, of course. And where if you can't, it's okay. Someone else will. That's community. Someone else will support so that we can have enough resources for everyone. I believe this from like with the wholeness of my body. And so I'm looking at this as a way of like, how do we like create all this space for us and be ready for what's next together? And so some people may not come, some people may go some other places, but we're still all in community together. So if you haven't joined the Pleasure Project yet, or if you were on it on school, it's moved. And so we'll close out this month on school, and then we'll come back. We'll all be in this space now. And this space is community.theaminainstitute.com. Type it in here.com. I hope that's spelled right, but yeah, that looks like it. I don't have on my glasses, so type it in the 50-year-old eyes and guessing a lot of letters. I think that's right. If you log in there, if you already have a login, you should be able to log in there. If you don't have a login yet, or it's not letting you, you can send us an email from the response to where this email was, or send me a message and we'll make sure that we get you in. And then you'll see the Pleasure Project there as an option. Once you're in there, then you can navigate from there. If you already have a membership, then you should be able to see your membership over there. But if you haven't, because we're in this transition and it's a learning curve for all of us, switching from our old system to this new system, which are similar in a lot of ways and also incredibly different in a lot of ways. So just let us know. We'll make sure that you're in. The other memberships, the other little communities that we have in there are for like students, and then we have one that's just for paid members. And so they're all have big different levels, but no matter what, you're going to be able to be in the receipt of this information. And yeah, and this process of like leaving the tantra behind also is a part of this shift for me. It's like I was, one of the things that I sent this out 2 years ago because now we're in the second year of the Amina Institute being named after me as opposed to all the ways that I had it. So I did, I started off with like Tantra in Paradise, which was Hawaii Tantra, and then I went to the Bay, and so we had Tantra in the Bay, and it's Atlanta, we had Atlanta Tantra. And yeah, I was like, I don't want to make it Costa Rica Tantra. Like, what are we doing now? We're in Panama, and who knows, right? Like where the worlds will take us. But my name is my name. My name actually means something, and so we moved from the Tantra umbrella into the Amina Institute for a couple of reasons, and I talk about this on the site. One of the reasons is also just the idea of where I started my Tantra journey and where it is now. And so I started my Tantra journey as a sex worker, trying to figure out how to make more money. And Tantra was a modality that was live and popping, and it was beautiful and fun and playful, but it was very neo Tantra and not rooted in absolutely a single thing at all. Um, that had anything to do with Tantra. Uh, in fact, now I'm just like, can we stop calling any of the stuff that we were doing Tantra? And I say that, and I say that to say that there was a nice bridge, and that for me, what that meant was, I'm always looking for the source, and so it led me to Buddhism, it led me to Vajrayana Tantra, which is what we practice, and it is what our erotic lineage is rooted in, and there is eroticism there. It just looks very different from what I was learning. And I wanted Tantra out of the name because one, for my siblings from the subcontinent of India, seeing that and seeing their culture, Tantra and yoga both just being completely bastardized and destroyed by us Americans. I wanted no parts in that. I don't call any of my movement practices yoga, even though I've completed the yoga teacher training. It's just we got one limb of yoga, and that's asana, and we got one thing of tantra, and that's sex. And it's just like, what are we doing here? And so I wanted to just have more integrity in my own name, in the name of my own work, um, as a practice and as something that can be modeled in the community. So that was a big part of the shift. And then I wanted folks to come in and choose Tantra if they want. It's an element here. We do work with certain goddesses. We do work with certain meditations and certain practices. And that's a choice you get to make. It doesn't need, we're really focused on embodiment and healing. My lineage of Tantra is a somatic lineage. It is where most of the somatic teachings in the West come from, originated from. And so I know that I can hold that, and then I can also expand. And then when I'm talking about, getting pegged in the ass, I don't have to worry about somebody seeing that and thinking that's Tantra. Um, you know what I'm saying? So that's a big chunk of like where this transition is, and this is the final and most complex chapter of the transition. And they're like, oh yeah, there's all this new equipment that I'm learning, and this new system that I'm learning, and I'm learning it while I'm overseas. And so sometimes I got to do stuff that needs a notary, and I'm like, oh man, this is a nightmare, which is what today felt like. So I say all that to say, please move through the website and know that you're going to see something like that doesn't look right. Probably not. We're dusting off, right? We're just doing our grand reopening, and there's still some dust on the front part of the store, and there's a couple wires still hanging, and we're getting to it. So just know that that's happening, and that there's community here helping build that, and it takes some time. We're getting to it. And what that looks like, though, is a lot of shifts. And so this is our last year of hosting, or my last year of hosting an online erosomatic touch cohort. So this July cohort that starts is the last one. After that, it will only be in person. There will be some pre-work. There will be no cohort in in January. So I usually do one every July and every January. I do a 10-month, I should name this, I do a 10-month work year. I don't believe in working 12 months. I think that's ludicrous. I don't know who came up with that rule. I do, and we're not doing it. And so I do a 10-month work year. I don't work in June. I don't work in December. I do admin in June. So I've been working admin wise, but I don't do face-to-face stuff. I don't see clients, work with clients in the month of June. And this is my baby step of getting June completely off the calendar, hopefully by next year. I believe that we can all be in the work that we love without working 12 months a year. That doesn't even make sense. No creature on the planet, no plant, no tree, no flower has a 365-day season of production. Who said we supposed to do that? That's some bullshit. And so I also am calling that into the community of like, this is not natural. We're supposed to have a season of rest. What are we doing? What are we talking about here, right? I also work a 4-day work week, cause fuck that. Uh, and ultimately, my BHAG, my big hairy audacious goal is to work a 3-week month. Because I don't even know why we're working 4 weeks. Do we just like when we gonna undo the system? Let's undo it. Let's undo why are we working 4 weeks out the month? Why are we working 5 days and now 7 days in most parts of the US? Most people that I know are working on the weekends. The kids don't know how to rest. Nobody knows how to rest. It's just nonstop going. And I want to create space for something different. I believe that's possible when you don't have to pay $10,000 a month to live, when gas is not $5 a gallon, and you don't have to commute for an hour and a half to go earn a check. So those are some things that anyway, we're coming back off of June, and we're in this flourishing part of the second half of the year, starting our third quarter. July, we have our erosomatic touch course, which starts in 8 days. It starts on the 9th. That's the online cohort. So it's 20 modules of training and preparation. It's the first part of the pathway into becoming a somatic sexologist through my program. There are 3 levels. You hear me talk about level 1, that's erosomatic touch. And we start with touch because that's where I started. I started with touch. I think there's a really deep need to know and understand the body in order to be able to work with the body in any capacity afterwards. So we learn our own bodies, we learn the bodies of those around us. We learn touch, we learn the nervous system, we learn shapes, we learn armor, we learn all these things about ourselves, stories that we tell. The the ones that limit us and the ones that make us explode into a million bits of stars. And we work through that for 20 weeks online, or 20 modules online. Some people take 20 weeks, some people take 52. And traditionally, you had 52 weeks to complete it. Well, originally you did. Before the pandemic, this class was only sold in person. You had to come to Atlanta to take it. We're going right back to that strategy because I had been sitting down for 5 years, 5.5 years, and my hip flexors hate me for it. And so I'm getting out of this chair right here. I bought the most ergonomic Dr. X, Mr. X chair I could find. And I'm getting out of it. I'm going to be back hands-on with the people and be back in the work that I love and still teaching. And so this is the last erosomatic touch class that's online. After this, you have to come in person. The in-person trainings are long for erosomatic touch. It's the most comprehensive of the courses. The other 2 are a lot lighter than erosomatic touch. And so it will be broken up into 2 parts, into 2 7-day trainings or 1 14-day retreat. So we'll play around with what's available for folks for that. So if you're thinking about enrolling and you want to move into the program with a little more ease, this might be the time to do it. You'll still have 365 days to complete the 20 modules. And then after that, it's like, yeah, we're gonna get into hands-on in person. I already switched level 2 and level 3 is no longer online. That change happened last year. Taught my last level 2 and my last level 3. Level 2 is the sex doula class. A lot of people come and be like, I want to be a sex doula. I'm like, great, learn the body first. And then you can come be a sex doula. The sex doula is also a sex educator. And so it meets the requirements of ASEX, sex educator training. You can fulfill those requirements with them after you complete that. You'd have to get some supervision and do some work with them. But if ASEX certification is important to you, that is available there. There are also other certifications and accreditations that I've made sure that my course meets and fulfills. Although I don't do the paperwork, I will sign something for you. The only thing everything is already set. So like if you want to become a board certified sexologist, my program is accepted by ABS. You just submit your graduation papers when you complete everything, and they'll give you the stamp of approval and confer you as a board certified somatic sexologist. Level 3 is somatic sex coach, and that training will qualify you for ICF, International Coaching Federation, coaching certification as well. Again, you'll have to go through supervision hours. They require you to submit recorded coaching sessions. So you'll have to go through that process with them, but I will give you the ground, the foundation, the legwork for you to get those certifications if they matter to you. Then I've done the work to make sure that that's possible. They don't matter to me because they don't work. My work, I will always say, speaks for itself, and this ancestral work, I don't think needs accreditation. I do think it needs community. I think it needs protection. Accreditation has never protected anybody from anything. It's never protected us from any harm. But I get it. I know that some jobs might want it. Some schools might not let you teach without it. So I understand the reality of our world, and I just choose to live outside of that reality. I can show you how to do both. So level 1, 2, and 3 are now after this year, after this course that starts this week, next week, all in person. There is a prerequisite, which is that you have taken a consent course. The consent courses that I allow currently are like a pro from the School of Consent, or my own class, Authentic Consent, which if you show that you're registered in, is enough for you to get started. So the next Authentic Consent is in August. It's an online training. It's 6 days of online class. It's on Monday and Wednesday in late August. Those dates are on at the aminainstitute.com/consent. You'll see that there. And there's plenty of information for you to kind of understand what this pathway is, but the consent piece is really important. And so those are the prerequisites. There's also a place called Consent Wizardry. And if you've done consent training with them, depending on which level, I would review that and also consider that as an option. That's all I have right now, is who will qualify for my consent trainings. And that's really all I'm focusing on. The membership is the membership, and our membership program in the paid membership at the founder level, which right now is $29 a month. At the founder level, if you're a student, you automatically get founder while you're enrolled in class. At the founder level, you get 2 webinars a month, and you get access to other perks, other trainings and classes and resources online in the membership section. Then there's the altar builder, which is a lower price point so that everybody can still have access to some of to the library content, things like that. And then there's the free membership, which is the Pleasure Project. So there's a lot of ways that you can come into this community. We have a WhatsApp chat, we hang out, we travel together. When I'm in the US, I teach in different cities, but also there's so many of us that are doing things in the cities that we're in, that coming together is possible. And of course, I'm recruiting you all to come here. So basically, that's that's what's happening here. Okay, let's see. So I see some questions over here. What does Amina mean? Amina it means trust in Arabic. It is really how you close your prayers, how most people have been trained to close your prayers, which is amen. It's the same root word, amin and amen. When you say amen, you're really putting your trust that the prayer is being carried forward. That's the origin of the word, and that's the origin of the name of Amina. And so it can be translated as trust or trustworthy. And I wanted to create an institute that felt like the material that we were teaching, it has so much integrity that it lives up to my name and that I live up to my name through teaching it. So that's the name. Um, the event in September. So that is also online, but that's the wait, September. What event is in September? Oh, South Carolina. So that's that. So there's two. When you do Somatic Touch, when you've completed all 20 modules of Somatic Touch online, then you are eligible to come to the in-person hands-on training. The South Carolina is that hands-on in-person training. It is open to anyone who has completed all 20 modules first. So you can't just go to the South Carolina training. You have to first complete the prerequisites, which would be authentic consent or a consent training, and then all the level 1 online material. Once you've done that, then we come together for 4 days of hands-on training because it is body work, and you can only learn that through me correcting you and working with you. So that's what's happening here in a little bit. Um, yeah, the link for the 20 days, that's thank you for naming that. There's two places you can go to find it. When you log in, when you go to the website, which is if you scroll up, it's in there, the AminaInstitute.com. When you go there, maybe I didn't put it there, I put the other one in. When you go to the AminaInstitute.com, what you will see is like a search bar, or not a whatever, drop down menu, that's the word. On the menu, you will see let me just, you know what? I can tell you it, but oh, thank you. Thank you, Rebel. I was gonna try and walk you through it the hard way, and I'm like, my brain is not actually gonna let me do that. Um, the new website is cute, and it still can be confusing. So this is what it looks like when you go to the home. I don't know what it looks like on the phone. I'm too old. I am claiming that one. I do not look at websites on the phone. I use my phone for talking, for FaceTiming, for sexting, and for uh, social media. I do not go to websites on my phone. So I do not know what it looks like. I have officially allowed myself to claim whatever age it is to stop looking at my phone for websites. The words are too small. But here, there's membership, and this is where you will become a member. You can log in through here if you don't want, it'll just take you to the community. Become a member or access the community. The trainings is the link that you're looking for. Authentic consent is the prerequisite. Somatic sexologist gives you a whole overview of the whole program. Level 1 is Somatic Touch. When you click here, it'll take you to where Rebel just shared, and that is the page with the details and the registration link. You can register for payments. You can do the payment plan, or you can do all at once. Do that. And then there's, more information, our podcast, my blog, how to contact, more information about me, working with me, and then resources, which we're building out is still, there's still more to come. We got writings, we got the music. The Pleasure Project is still on here from school, but it no longer links. You have to go through the other button. And then we have things that are coming in that we're adding with reading lists and books and basics about erotic embodiment, things like that. So a lot of information that's coming. Links you to our AASS so that you can find more clinicians, more practitioners. All of that is being rolled out. And so there's a lot of ways to, oh, thanks, Rebecca shared. Thank you, Rebecca. A lot of ways to find more, and we're still constantly building this out so that this can be not just a place where we come and study and hang out, but a place where we actually are fully being supported and held, and that we get to know what that feels like in this space. Yeah. Any other questions, thoughts, comments, curiosities? I'm looking at the different levels of brightness across this hemisphere. It's like getting pitch black over in Costa Rica. It's super bright up in Massachusetts. Yeah, I get like the earliest sunrises and the latest sunsets. It's fun to watch Mackenzie over in Georgia, like with this like dusk is approaching, but it's not there yet. So yeah.
I have some questions about the courses and enrolling. I don't know if
Yeah,
this is the appropriate time. So
absolutely.
I would have to do authentic consent, but I was interested in somatic touch. However, I'm kind of zoomed out and finding that I'm not doing a good job of following through on online trainings on my own. Like I really need a community and the in-person accountability. And I
Hmm.
am a massage therapist, so touch is something that I'm familiar with, but I think I'm more interested in doing it in person. So I'm sort of curious as to the timeline of that. Um, and I'm also curious, you mentioned that I think that there's classes at the founder level. And so I'm wondering if there's some of that stuff like to, do authentic consent and then engage in some of that other stuff in the meantime in preparation for an in-person training and then also being able to save up and plan
Hmm.
for an in-person training. Like, so if you have a little bit more um not super concrete but like like a timeline sort of for when the next in-person only training for level one would
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
and
We're
sort
looking
of
at
what to
May,
do in the meantime.
yeah,
Yeah,
May of 2027.
May of 27. Okay.
Yeah, that's when the next in-person um training is for the with the full course with no online. The online course for us, I will say, is different. I too am tapped out of online trainings. I have a training I need to finish, but I'm like, I can't finish it online. So I'm waiting for the next the teacher I wanted to study with actually tragically died and just like out of the blue. And so I'm like, well, there's my plan. Should have just took it online, but no, I don't this is what happens, right? When we like the delayed reality of life. The community, though, I will say, like as a whole, the thing that makes my classes a little bit different than the programs that I'm in is that we have office hours every Wednesday. And so we co-work every Wednesday. I'm there every Wednesday unless there's a training that I'm in. And then so it's out of, the 20 weeks that I'm working, I mean, per half of year. So the 40 weeks out of the year that I'm actively online, I'm probably in the office hours 35 of those weeks. You have access to me for 5 hours every Wednesday. I teach an online live class, so it's not all recorded videos. And then our community is pretty active as far as like getting together. And you have folks up there because Trent is up there with you. And so you have community there that's in the community. But our community is pretty active and comes together and they have study groups and things like that. So that makes it a little bit different than like some of the online stuff that I've taken. So I just want to name that as a possibility because I hear you. And I still am burnt out from online, even with all that being said. So moving through the authentic consent training in August. That's a quick 6 days back to back. It's Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday. Be done with that. It's manageable. It's other thing, these long stretched out periods. You're gonna lose me. I already know that. So if that's you, fine. Come to the authentic consent, get enrolled, do the membership, watch the webinars, jump into the stuff that's happening that way. And then in April, or in, I guess, March, or maybe, I don't know when the registration will open, when we'll finally make that decision. I'm guessing it will be sometime, 12 weeks out, usually is what we do. Then you'll register for the May training. and you can come. It's probably going to be here in Panama. I can't imagine it not being here. So get that passport renewed if you need to, but then you have time to do that. And one of the reasons why I do it here in Panama, I know that it poses some strategic issues for some folks, but financially it is the most affordable because of the cost of hotels or the other choice, which is to support Airbnb in the US. That cost is really prohibitively expensive for most people, no matter what city I do it in, unless I do it in like Bufu, like I don't even know what. We have class in Salt Lake City last year, so it could be more affordable. And I'm like, that's where we're landing, right? And so it's like, how do we make this space work for folks? And this is one of the ways, one of the tools that I found, that if I can get people to come here, the most expensive part is the flight. And that's probably the same cost. Like the flight from most cities to here is the same cost now as it costs you to fly in most cities. I mean, I saw tickets from Atlanta to Miami for like $600, and that's an hour-long flight. So might as well come to another country, get a passport stamp, dance a little bit, eat some better food. And so that's the reason why I do it here. That, and because it lets me keep the price down because I don't have to travel also. So the price stays pretty affordable that way. So yeah, so just jump in when you're ready to the membership, and then that will let you be just in the process um, of the work. With you already having the body work, the massage therapy part, there's a lot of stuff that you will seem really easy for you anyway. So like I have a few other practitioners that have moved through the course, and I'm just like, yeah, you can just probably skip past the anatomy part, right? Because you already got the trail guide to the body. I'm trying to introduce the book to people, right? So there's a lot of that's happening too. So yeah.
And you said though that it would be possible if I did want to do the online course to do it even though authentic consent starts after your somatic touch starts, as long as I register
Yeah.
before.
Yeah,
Okay.
so as long as you register to the course, right? So if you'll be registered concurrently, and if you register concurrently, then that lets you have, like, I know that you're getting ready to take the course, and so there's some stuff that I'll reference the class, and you'll be like, I think I know what she's talking about, or this sounds familiar. Um, but then once you move to the course, you'll be like, okay, this is clear. You'll still have access to the course. You can still read authentic consent, move through the coursework, and be ready for the class. And then when we do the live class, those 6 hours or 12 hours will just fly by, and you'll be ready to finish the rest of the coursework. So you'll have July. Our first class is in July. You'll have our second class in August, and then you'll be finished with authentic consent before our third live class. So you won't miss much. And so that's why I let people do that side by side. Yeah. So that is an option.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we have, I mean, Bew has finished the course. Sophia has finished the course. Sophia's finished level 3. Beulah's finished level 3. Rebel is finished with level 2. Mackenzie's finished with level 2. There's folks in here now that have Natty has started. We're gonna get Natty to finish one of these days. There are folks that are in here that are moved through or have started to move through or been in the process of the course. So yeah. Tanya, go ahead. I see your hand is raised.
Yes, now I understand how the site is. I'm sorry. You broke it down. So I have to do August online. I will pay it soon, a couple of days. Sorry. And because I had a situation. But I understand now.
Okay,
So I understand. Thank you.
no
And then
worries.
I will sign up to go to Panama in May in 2027. So I'll put some money aside.
Great.
It's a nice place. I've been there before.
Yeah.
Last year for my birthday.
Oh, good.
Because usually
Good.
do it in January. That's
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. Any other questions before we wrap up for the evening? I want to honor everyone's time.
I have just a quick question.
Absolutely.
So The difference between like a pro and the authentic consent, is it that the like a pro course is taught by someone else, or or do you do both? And is there like another option for later in the year in Panama? I'm looking at the schedule, but I just see the one coming up in August. So I just wanted to, to clarify to see if it is something just because the time is coming up so quickly.
Yeah, so the August one, okay, so you're going to see two. I teach and train people to teach authentic consent. And so that's the one that's in Panama. That's for people who have already completed the online course. The online course is coming up in August. It is, let me not lie to you, pull out my trusty digital calendar. It is,
The 5th to the 8th, I think. No,
no,
that's a
that's the
training.
teacher training. That's
Training,
the
yeah.
teacher training. The one that you'll be coming to is
I
the
think it's August 10th.
And
Yeah,
10th to the
August 10th through the
26th.
26th. It's every Monday
Hmm.
and Wednesday from 6 to
Okay.
8 for those 3 weeks. So you can wrap that up pretty quickly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. hmm And then if you wanted to do like a pro, there's a like a pro training that's scheduled here in Panama. I will be supporting that and co-facilitating. And then there's a BIPOC one that's happening soon somewhere in the US. And that is all at the schoolofconsent.com. You want to go to schoolofconsent.com and you'll see in their like a pro series. Jax, who is a graduate here, usually facilitates most of the POC or BIPOC groups. And there's some other trainings that they have all over the place. And so just to give you a few options, like a pro is more expensive and it's 5 days in person all day.
Is the material vastly different or is it very similar?
There's a lot of overlap and there's a
Okay.
lot of difference, right? Like mine is definitely more rooted in somatics, and then I have my own philosophy on boundaries and standards that I teach in the course, which is really the root of my work is these spheres of uh, not influence, but like acceptance and relationship that we exist in. And so that is a fundamental part of my course. I also teach communication strategy in mine. So those are two parts that are just not there in like a pro, but then they have stuff that I don't have. And so I recommend them both. I teach, help co-facilitate both, but I I like mine better. Hello.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And listen, I understand the bias. I would be too.
Yeah, so yeah, great. Any other questions? Tanya, is your hand still up or that's just like,
Yes, I have
okay.
a no, no. For like once you do, sorry, at least sex. I mean, sex doula part 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
The sex doula thing. Um, like say for example, like girls understand their bodies and been through trauma, because usually when women go through trauma, they know, understand, and they can help other people. So about how many years we should wait to be able to teach like what you're doing, because I
Mm.
know you also teach that as well.
Yeah, so that's a good question. And I don't know if that one is one that I can answer. I think, and I don't know if it's one we should concern ourselves with, honestly. If I'm going to be honest, I think like uh, the realistic, uh, the reality of it is that you'll know that you feel safe enough, ready enough, experienced enough, practiced enough to teach when that arrives. But it's a different time frame for everyone because it depends on like, will you practice or not? Because you can't teach from a space where you're not practiced in, and the practice requires so much of you. And so it's hard, intimidating, and frightful for some people to be in the practice. And so there's sometimes speed bumps, right? Like I think about like how long I took just for yoga. I started practicing asana-based yoga in the late 90s. I went to teacher training in 2012. Um, and then I stood and teach for like another 3 years. I just wasn't ready. I wasn't practiced enough, And so it's like, where is your practice? What is life throwing at you? Are you able to manage all of that? I think it might be a different time frame for folks that are in the US and then are trying to balance all this and then still be somewhere else and like learn something else that's contra whatever is happening to the body. So there's just I think the key to me in this is like, can I be with this work as much as possible? And just see how it changes you. You may find that it changes you in a way that leads you in a whole different direction also. That maybe you, who knows? I don't even know what that direction looks like or where it is. And so I like to the Aquarius in me is like, just be with the work and see where that leads you. Because it
You
can,
Aquarius?
yes, absolutely.
I
Sorry,
am too.
like
Wow.
everybody should know. Yeah, absolutely. And so like let that open you up to see what.
Well, I do sell sex toys, so I know it's gonna combine with the business too. So
Yeah, it might. You might find yourself completely turned in a whole different direction. So let the request that I have that I make of you all is that you come into it open to like what your spirit calls you to, right? Like what your erotic sexualness says, this is where we're landing and this is where our energy feels the best. And I think that is something that we really dive into and peel back in the course so that you can really feel into your purpose and become a commitment to whatever that is. Yeah. Yeah. All right, John. Thank you so much. I'm going to run and try and catch the rest of Yael's information. Oh, let's see, Jamila, I'll be coming out of my midwife training hall next spring. Yay! And my goal was to start here, but midwifery called first. I'm hoping it will line up soon, but I will keep showing up wherever I can. Maybe that May in person will be where I land. Absolutely, we'll be waiting for you. And I'm glad that midwifery has called you. This is also midwifery in its own way. And folks that are moving energy and like bringing the erotic in to create life will need you. So finish that up and let's see where we pull you in. Yeah. And congratulations for almost finishing. You're on the tail end of that, so good for you. Hi, Amina. Definitely want to complete this part of the journey. Can I connect with you separately? Yeah, let's connect separately. Let's see how we can get you to complete the journey and get you done with this already, Natalie. Let's get you done. All right. All right, y'all. It's so good to see you all. Thank you for popping in. This recording will be available. So if you dozed off, missed something, came in late, look for the recording. I'll send a link out for you tomorrow. And I will talk to you all soon. If you have any other questions, just respond to the email that I sent today. And we'll see you. We'll see you in class. We'll see you in community. Maybe we'll see you here in Panama. All right. Ciao.